Hey, what's up, Internet friends? This is Dave DeWitt. Welcome to Midnight Muse Studios. Today I'm going to record a guitar backing track that I'm going to use, an audio track that I'm going to use for a YouTube video. And I'm going to use the brand new Universal Audio Luna recording system to make the track. So let's jump right in here. I'm not going to do a whole lot of, this is not intended to be a tutorial. So what I'm going to do is just create the track. Typically, I've been a Logic Pro user, but I downloaded Luna. I have a Universal Audio Apollo Twin Duo, the Mark II version. And so I was able to download Luna for free. Figured I would jump right in here and see if I could use it to record this and make a video. When you open up Luna, you see this screen here, and on the left-hand side, you've got these options. I'm going to use the Create option to make a new project. This one's going to be called 12 Bar Blues in A. I'm going to skip over the AAF import. I'm not going to import an advanced audio file from another DAW. I'm just going to make this track from scratch. I'm going to make it 90 BPM and leave the signature as 4.4, and I'm going to leave the location at the default under Luna Sessions folder. Hit create here and it will go ahead and create the track. I'm going to create a new track. So over here on the left hand side is the focus browser, and typically the focus browser will show whatever it is that you need to do at that moment in time, depending on what you've selected and based on your context. So I'm going to create a new track. The track type is going to be instrument because I'm going to use a software instrument to create drums. We'll start with drums here. Once I select the instrument type, I'm going to leave it out with just one track that we'll create at stereo format. I'm going to name it here. We'll just call it drums. And I'm going to use shape, which comes with Luna. And I'm going to hit OK. Once I hit OK, it's actually going to go ahead and create the track. Did I hit it? Yeah. And it's going to bring up the shape software instrument, and I'll select the drums here. So I'm going to go to presets here within shape. And again, on the left-hand side under the focus browser, based on the context, it's going to show me the presets that are available. I'm going to scroll down until we find the drum presets. Let me see here. There we go. And I know from playing around that I think I want to use this OWD Kit 1. I'm going to then close the shape instrument, and I'm going to record enable my drum track that I have here. So I'm actually using, just by the way, a Novation Launch Key 49. And now that I've record enabled, I can go ahead and execute my MIDI performance right here on the launch key. And I didn't have to do anything to make this work with Luna. It's just a USB keyboard, and Luna recognized it, and I can use it to perform MIDI now. One cool thing about this too that I found that'll be more important when I record a piano part later is that I have a little sustain pedal that plugs into my keyboard that never worked with Logic, and it works with Luna, so that's a little bonus so far. So anyway, let's go ahead and record a couple bars of the drums. You can use the transport bar up here to toggle on and off the recording process, but I'm going to actually use the numeric number 3 on my keyboard to start it. It does that, and you can use the space bar to stop. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to record a couple of bars of the drum track. This is going to be like a rolling blues track in the style of like a J.J. Cale track, hopefully. Hang on, I'm going to toggle on the metronome, and I'm going to turn the click volume on the metronome down a bit because I think it's a little bit loud, and I don't want it to be too loud in the video. So, all right, let's try this. All right. So that's not perfect, but it'll do. I'm gonna go ahead and do some editing here, and there's a bunch of ways that you can zoom in on a clip once you've got it in your timeline. So you can, with the clip selected, you can hit the E on your keyboard, which will expand it out all the way. Once you've got the clip selected again, there's a couple of contextual items here that I think are great. The two things that I typically always do in MIDI is velocity adjustments and quantize, and those are the two things that are right here on the clip menu. So right off the bat, we will quantize to 1/16, which makes it just line up with the grid. All right, so it's perfectly aligned. It was pretty close, but we'll just make it perfect since this is a backing track. We want it to be really perfect for the people that are playing along from a timing perspective. And then what I'm going to do is this. There are a couple choices here for choosing the velocity controls. You can click this button here which brings up this little pane down here that has the MIDI sort of performance parameters that you can edit, or you can double click the clip, the top bar on the clip. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my zoom options to, if you hold down the control key and you use the mouse up and down scroll, you can zoom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the velocity parameters on some of these notes because I want to make sure that they are I just want to make it sound a little bit more like I intended, or that I hope that this track will sound. One of the cool things here too that's right off the bat in this context, if you hit the fold button, what it does is it collapses down and only shows you the notes that are used in the performance. So the B1 is the kick drum, D#2 is the main snare, and the E2 is what I'll call the rolling snare. So I know for sure that the E2 rolling snare, I tried when I was performing that on my keyboard to hit it softly, but it's a little tough sometimes to perform that on these keyboards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of those by just hitting the E2 button, and I'm going to pull them all down the velocity. So the snare, I want it to be pretty loud and I want it to be pretty consistent. This one seems a little low, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that one up. That one's maybe a little high. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that accidental drag. And this last one looks like it's maybe a little high as well. All right, I think that's pretty good. I'm going to do one more thing here to, well, let me show you a couple things. So this is I'm going to zoom it back out so that I can see more of the timeline here, because I'm going to now duplicate this 2-bar section out to make the 12 bars that we need. I'm going to collapse down the velocity section. If you have your clip selected, you can hit Command E to split the clip, and I can delete then the leading section of that I don't really want, and I can just, with the clip selection, I can hit duplicate. Let me zoom back out a little bit here again. And so 12 bar blues, we're starting at bar 2 here with the recording. I need to go out to bar 14 to make my 12 bars. So I'm going to duplicate this, I believe, 4 more times, Command D, and that gets me out 12 bars. So now I have 12 bars of that rolling drum beat that's going to form sort of the basis of the rhythm for this track. All right, that's pretty good. Actually, it just occurred to me, I want more than 12 bars of drums. So I want to have 1 bar of like a drum lead in on this. So I'm going to just select 1 bar's worth of this MIDI performance here, and I'm going to Command C to capture that or copy that, and then I'm going to hit return to go back to 0 and hit Command V to paste it. Let's just check and make sure that that's right. Yep. All right, so now we're back. Put the loop to start at 0, and now what I need to do is set up a new track to record the bass. So back over here in the Focus browser, I'm going to hit the plus, the add sign, and I'm going to choose an audio track. I'm going to leave it at mono because I want this bass track to be mono, and I'm going to name this one bass. So now we have this new bass track. I do have my bass guitar, which I'll grab here, plugged into the instrument input on my Apollo. So I'm going to make sure that my input is set to the mic line high Z input on the front. I want to set up in the unison slot, and once you hit record, this is an important little thing, which is actually really cool with Luna. It's one of the context-aware ways that Luna is really amazing to me is that when you hit record on a track, it remembers what you've got in your plugin slot. So you put in a unison slot, if you put in here the Ampeg, I'm going to use the Ampeg SVTR Classic amp plugin to record this track. And I'm going to choose from the presets, again, over here in the focus menu, I'm going to choose the Punchy Rock preset, which it remembered that too from the last time I had this open. So now I've got the Punchy Rock preset on my Ampeg plugin. And if I wanted to, I could also add in the record FX slots, like a compressor or something like that. As long as for a record slot, it has to be a universal audio plugin. But if I turn off the record, watch what happens to the Unison plugin up here, the SVTR Classic. So it goes away. And the cool thing about that is down here in the DSP section, you can see that right now I'm using 7%. I think that's a 7%. If I turn this record back on and it brings the SVTR Classic back in, Well, now it's using 21% of my DSP because I've got that plugin loaded. So the cool thing about it is when you turn off the record enable for these, it actually takes those out of the track and doesn't use the resources up for that, which I think is really cool because it remembers that you had it there. So as soon as you want to record an overdub or something like that, you just re-enable the record or re-arm the track for recording, and it's got everything back the way it was, which I think is great from like a resource management perspective. So anyway, it's very cool. I'm going to record this. Let me just make sure I've got, yep, we got signal. I'm going to try this. All right, I think we got a pretty good take on that one, just on that take. So we'll quit while we're ahead here. I noticed a bit of noise on that, so I'm going to show you this fade. Again, another really awesome contextual item here. With the clip, the audio clip selected, if you want to add a fade, all you have to do is come over here to the left-hand side of the clip and just drag to the right, and then you can change the fade properties with this little control handle here, which I think is also really cool from a workflow perspective. That's easy compared to what, you don't have to change your mouse, you don't have to change your selector type or anything like that. You just go over to the left and grab it and do it. So now we got a fade on the front end of that. I might add just a tiny fade to the bass on the end of it. Yep. And so now there's our bass part. Okay, so let's move on to the piano track now. Let's create a new track for the piano. This is going to be an instrument track. I'm going to use the Shape software instrument again. I'm going to name this track piano, and I'm going to leave it as stereo. So we'll go ahead and create that. When the Shape instrument comes up, I'm going to choose presets and then go back over to the focus browser. This time I'm going to search, type in piano in the top window, and I'll choose the house piano preset for this. Let's see. And again, my sustain pedal works. So that's nice. I am going to arm the piano track. I'm not going to put any plugins on this one. So let's see. I'm going to return to 0 with the return key, and I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get a track here. So we had a bad note there in the very last part of that take. And there's a couple options for that. We could overdub and play that. We could also go in here. It's snapping to the quarter note here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to turn off the snap. And then I'm just going to take this note and drag it over to line up with those. So let's see how that sounds. All right, so moving right along, let's do the guitar track. We'll do 2 guitar tracks for this. I'm going to start with the left. So I'm going to go back over here to the focus browser, create a track. It's going to be an audio track for guitar. I'm going to leave this on mono, and we'll call this one guitar left. And on this track, what I'm going to do, I'm going to record, enable the track. I'm going to have I've got my guitar plugged into input, the front input instrument, so the input is set correctly. I'm going to use a unison plug here, the Marshall Plexi Classic. and I'm going to go to the presets, and I think I'm going to do a clean warm for this one using a Telecaster on this track. So we'll do that, and then I'm also going to put in we'll do an 1176 on this track to compress it a little bit as we record it. And from the presets on this one, we'll just do the Andy Johns guitar. All right, so I think that's ready. Let's see what we've got here. All right, I think that's what we need. We are at 0. We are record armed. I can actually make this track a little bigger now. All right, I think that was good enough. So we'll go ahead and take off the record arm on that track. Let's create one more guitar track here. Same thing that we did before, audio track in the Focus browser. Mono, we'll call this one guitar right. And we'll do a different part on the right side. And for this one, we're gonna make this sound a little different. So I'm gonna go with the bridge pickup. The last track was on the middle tele pickup. We'll do this one on the bridge. I'm gonna roll the volume down on the guitar just a tiny bit here, and we'll still do in the unison preamp or the unison plugin section. We'll do the Plexi Classic. This time maybe we'll go with maybe we'll do Rock Rhythm 2, and I'm still gonna do an 1176 on the way in. And we'll stick with the Andy Johns guitar compressor. So that's the kind of sound we have. Let's see if we can get a take here. I'm gonna return to 0 and number 3 on the keypad to start the recording. Okay, so I think that's pretty good for the right side guitar. And let's start to see if we can, actually we'll do some organ as well and maybe some percussion before we start to mix. So, but for now I'm going to turn off the record enable on that right side track. I'm going to shrink these down just a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and pan and set the volume a little bit more where I think it's close. Just pull them down by about 18 for now. The panning on Luna, these are mono tracks, so the panning is relatively straightforward. For this guitar left for now, I'm just going to grab it and pull it all the way to the right, and on the right guitar I'm going to pull it left all the way to the left, and the right guitar all the way to the right. So let's just... That sounded pretty good, considering it's not, that's just not really mixed, and there's nothing really going on effects wise, or no compression other than what we just tracked on those 2 guitar tracks. So I think that's pretty good. Let's move on ahead into recording some organ. So let's create a new track. We'll use the instrument type again, and I'm going to name this one organ, and we're going to leave it as a shape instrument and of stereo format. So here we go, we have the organ track created now. I'm going to record, enable that one, and I'm going to go into the presets in the shape instrument, and I'm going to search on organ, and I'm going to choose the drawbar first 3 classic. Okay, I think that'll be pretty good for this track. So let's try take. Alright, so we got a couple of wrong notes there, and over here in this section. Yeah, and this is where we can use, let's see, if we click this button, we'll get the versions, which is versions of takes that we can do here. So let's see, we've got 1 take there right now, here under V1, and let's try another take. We'll hit the plus button, it creates a new version. Maybe I'll start it a little earlier too. Yeah, so that's where. Okay, so let's try that. So I think we might have gotten what we needed there. And to comp them together from the 2 versions that we have, so we'll comp together one version that we like. I'm just going to take what I recorded just then and take in version 2, and it's really from here. Let's just change the location of the play head to just the part that we want. So it's really there. So that's the part in take 2 that's good. Here's the part in take 1. So take 1. So switching between the takes over here in the track versions section. So what I'm going to do here now to comp together a take that I like is I'm just going to select the notes that are in the section in take 1. So I'm over on here, I'm on take 1, and I'm going to just delete them. And then I'm going to go to take 2, and I've already got the same section that's selected there. I'm going to copy, Command C. I'm going to go back to take 1, or version 1, and I'm going to paste with the Control V. And so now what I have is the version 1 has the part that I just overdubbed. So. Now I've got the organ completed. I'm going to pull the gain down on that channel or that track, take it down to about 14 dB below Unity. And I'm going to, so the panning, I'm going to leave the organ right now panned full stereo. It's actually just 2. So here's the thing with panning, and this is a stereo track. When it's a stereo track, you've got 2 channels, the left channel and the right channel, so you can pan them independently. But for this one, for the organ, I'm just going to leave the left channel panned 100% left and the right channel 100% right. I think what I'm going to do is have in the mix the organ and the piano. The piano, I'm going to go a little bit probably right. So what you can do is you can either click on that and you can scroll. You can move your mouse to scroll, or you can double click the value. And I'm just going to set this now to, let's say, 40 right. And I'll do that for both the left and the right channel on the piano. And if I solo the piano and the organ, let's see. that's decent just as a start. I'm going to unsolo with the global solo enable option. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the solo.